Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Hey guys, it's Adam back with my co host Ben, and we have a quick, easy, very information packed episode today for you, all about property taxes. I know that sounds super exciting. So if that got you a little underwhelmed, you want to stick around for this one because if you are a property owner, this is an episode that hopefully will provide you guys with some very actionable tools to succeed and save some money when you pay your tax bill next April.
Yeah, and the reason this is so important is because it's an affordability issue. And right now, when you think about homeownership, property values are at or near all-time highs. Interest rates are at a 20-year high. Insurance is the highest it's ever been, and same with property taxes. But today, Adam's gonna share with you how you can, what you can do about that, how you can fight it if you feel that you've been given an unfair assessment from your county.
Yep. So we're filming this today, which is halfway through May 15th, May 14th. And I think a lot of us right now, if you guys are a homeowner, you've gone out to your mailbox, you may have found something that's a little bit surprising in there, saying that your home value maybe went up or down. And more importantly, just talking about the 2025 property tax assessment. And this matters a lot more than you guys think. So in Colorado, we do these assessments every 2 years. A good way to remember it's every odd year. So 2023, we had one, 2025 it's happening right now, but it's going to be reflected when you pay your taxes next April, when you're paying your taxes in arrears for this year, for 2025. So we're just going to talk through, though, just first off, like what is a property tax assessment, and then share with you, again, how you can actually appeal that if you feel like the dollar amount that they put as what your property is assessed at, if you felt it was too high, or even if you think it's probably accurate, but you still want to try and push back a bit, we're going to share with you guys how you can do that. The reason it's so important is the due date for this is actually coming up in only a couple of weeks. They don't give you much time. It's June 8th. So very important to remember that June 8th of this year is when you have to file this appeal by if you guys want to appeal your property tax assessment.
Yeah, I just got mine in the mail a couple days ago. Postcard. And what I found interesting is that I don't feel like property values have, gone up significantly in the past 2 years. I mean, they probably have gone up a little bit, but it was saying that my assessments and my assessed value is up like 15% from the last assessment, just 2 years ago. So and then I want to pick your brain on this. I mean, isn't the assessed value usually lower than the market value?
In a market that's very hot, for sure. Yeah, I think going back to your thing about the past 2 years and just more recently with just kind of the way the market's been. I think we're seeing right now this year, the assessed values are probably a little bit higher because they're still assuming this kind of high upward trajectory of what it was like in 2019, 2021, and 2023. Just with how crazy the market was here in Denver, just very high appreciation year over year. And now we're having a bit of a correction. It's not happening like it was even 2 years ago. So I think there's a very strong argument to be made when appealing this, just based off of that alone.
Yeah, I did appeal mine in 2023, and I did win. I ended up sending in some comparables and sent that information back to the county, and I was able to get that reduced. But looking at it now, I think I'm gonna have to do the same thing that I did a couple years ago because it feels like it's higher than what it should be. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially the property taxes that you pay is based off of that assessment. That's why it's so important, right?
Yep. Yeah. So basically, the way that they do an assessment, and you guys all first off, just kind of give a little disclaimer. I'm not an expert at taxes, so I'm taking this, from just doing some research before we recorded tonight. So if you guys have more specific questions, feel free to reach out to Ben or myself. We can kind of help walk you through any questions or specifics you guys might have. But so every 2 years, the county takes a look at what your home is worth. And this is called an assessment, and it helps decide just how much you'll pay in your property taxes next year. So for 2025, they looked at home sales for that 2 year period prior. So that's going to be July of 2022 to June of 2024. So that's the range, the 2 year range to figure out your home's value. That number isn't what you could actually sell it for, that appraisal amount. It's what the county thinks it's worth. So the higher the home is valued, the more you're going to be paying in taxes. So there is a reason behind why you want to appeal this and it's not how much you're trying to sell your house for, it's how much you're paying your property taxes on based off of that appraised. Ben, I'd like to also just share with you that, you're talking about just how a lot of neighborhoods are continuing to see a lot of appreciation in Denver. I was kind of interested to see that a lot of neighborhoods in Denver actually stayed the same or went down in value over the past year. And there are still
Yeah.
a few areas that are still seeing quite a bit of an increase of an appreciation. The biggest one seems to always be the case is Cherry Creek. They saw an 11% appreciation just last year in 2024. But there are other places that have seen similar very high increases in appraised value as well as assessed value. I'm sure is kind of following suit there. And it's always a lot of the areas that are surrounding Cherry Creek. So Belcaro, Countryside, or excuse me, Country Club, just a lot of those areas as well.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll typically stay in touch with my property's value. I'll go on to Zillow or some other home valuation websites, usually once a quarter, and just do a quick search, get a couple different opinions. Again, I know it's not 100% accurate, but I do just kind of look at the trends and what is the trended data there. That's what I pay more attention to. But at least according to some of these websites, kind of same thing. I mean, there's a little appreciation and then it comes back down, but it kind of goes up and down with the market. But it seems like I'm really in the same spot that I was in the summer of 2023. It was if you would have asked me, if I thought my assessed value from the county would have gone up before I got that postcard in the mail, I would have said that there was it was either not changed or maybe a minimal change. But when I got it, it was a significant change.
So just to kind of talk through this again a little bit in more depth. So in Denver, we have property taxes that are typically in the range of as low as maybe like zero point 0.4 up to maybe 1.5%. So let's just say it's a 0.5% where you're at. So you have a $500,000 house, that's $2,500 a year. That when I say a $500,000 house, Ben, they're basing that off of this same assessed value, right? That's where we're talking about saving. I just want to kind of be real clear about how people are saving money if they are appealing this property tax assessment. So let's just say your house in 2023 was assessed at 500,000 and you're paying roughly $2,500 a year in your property taxes. Now they're saying that your home is assessed at, let's just say, $600,000. And with that same $600,000 at at 0.5%, instead of paying $2,500, now you're paying, what is that?
1,000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit more. Just to kind of put dollars behind this, I think is important. But it's just to kind of take that a step further. This is not affecting how much you're going to be able to sell your house for. It's not something that's going to be. It is public knowledge. So if you have a good real estate agent, they can kind of dig into this a little bit and share with their buyer when submitting an offer, as an example, to see what the home has been assessed at. But full transparency, that's not something that I really take a look at that closely when I'm looking at homes for my clients. It's again not the market value. That's what's important when it comes to figuring out how much you're going to put an offer on a house for.
Yeah, you're gonna be more focused on what are the actual property taxes? What impact is that gonna have on the payment? What is that gonna add to escrow? What do those property taxes include? What percentage of the assessment is the property taxes there? And you kind of touched on this a minute ago, but there are certain communities and neighborhoods out there, especially in the new construction world, some of those newer communities that'll have much higher the percentage of property taxes that you pay is going to be much higher based off of the assessment than some of these more established neighborhoods. So folks in those categories, I'm talking about new home developments, metro districts, this probably matters even more because the percentage that you're already paying is higher. If that assessed value increases, it's going to increase your payment even more.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm wondering, I have just a kind of a question since you're the expert with lending. Let's just say that somebody gets qualified for a loan and they're right on the cusp of affording a certain dollar amount, not just the home price, but factoring in everything else, the HOA, the property taxes, and then also maybe some insurance. But one of those again being property taxes. So if they're already right at the ceiling of what they're qualified for, let's say they buy a home and this last year in 2024, 1 year later, the home gets significantly assessed at a higher price point. Now, all of a sudden, they can't qualify for that payment like they would have before. I guess it's kind of after the fact, so there's nothing you guys can do about that. But Is that something that ever comes up, or is that, do you think, a reason sometimes why people, are late on their payments or just no
Yeah,
longer can pay
it
their
definitely
loan?
can be an impact. We're seeing, and this is the other thing that's interesting because I'll get a ton of calls, especially this time of year, on folks that they always get so confused about this because they think their mortgage payment is changing because their property taxes or homeowners insurance has changed, but they always think it's the loan payment that's changing. So they might call me and say, "Well, I thought you said this was a fixed rate and the principal and interest would never change." And I always say, you remembered correctly. It is a fixed rate, but the principal and interest isn't changing. It's your escrow, the property taxes, and the homeowner's insurance. And so it is very confusing. But as far as guidelines are concerned, it's always at the time of application and origination and closing. What does the customer qualify for uh, at that time? Now, one thing I will see is, and this has been happening a lot lately, like the listing agent will put the property taxes in the listing, and then I'll go to an independent third party website that I have access to. And most of the time, it's going to reference the same property tax amount. But then in some cases, when we get that property tax cert back directly from the title company, that is basing that off of the most recent information that they're getting from the county. There's been a lot of discrepancies recently, and so the example that you shared a minute ago, well, if someone's property taxes are going from 2,500 to 3,000 annually, I mean, that's not a crazy amount, but it is, I mean, a 10%, 20, close to 20% increase, and $50, 40 to $50 more per month. And on someone that is already tight from a qualifying perspective, that could be the difference between being able to write an offer on that home, and having to go find something else.
Yeah. Not to be super down and negative, but definitely worth just really thinking that through, you guys. So, just to kind of give you a little bit more specifics on just what to do if you got this in the mail and you want to act on it, you want to appeal it. We got 4 steps basically here. So, start off, just check out the letter you got in the mail. It usually shows what the county thinks that your home is worth. Make sure also in that form that they include there that your home size, layout, and features are all listed out correctly. And then number two, you're going to do what's known as a CMA, or a comparative market analysis. You're going to be comparing similar homes to yours. So you're going to want to look at homes near you that sold, though. It has to be within that specific 2-year period. So again, that's July 2022 through June of 2024. That's the range that they're basing this assessment on that you're going to be disputing. Did they sell this for less than your assessed value? These comps, did the comps sell for less than that assessed value? That can also help your case. That's a way to show that these other comps are selling for a lower price point to justify your adjustment. So that's number two. Number three, sending in the protest. So just go to the county website. You can file an appeal online. You can usually do this online, but also, just more importantly, it doesn't cost anything. This is a free service you can do. And then the number four, waiting for a decision. So if they agree, your home value and your tax bill might go down. If not, you can always appeal again to a higher board, or since a lot of times it's not a huge amount of money, a lot of people just kind of concede at that point and just maybe consider doing it again in 2 years.
It is frustrating though when your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance a lot of times go up, year after year after year. And so it's frustrating, and I can understand why families, it eats into their family budget, maybe their entertainment. There's always the question, where are these property tax dollars going? How are they serving the community, the county? So yeah, so I mean, it is frustrating. Now, I didn't know this, but if you're a veteran, um, you can go to the VA Colorado website, and you only pay 50% on the first $200,000 of the assessed value. So if you are a veteran, and you're fully, you do have to qualify. So I think you have to be classified as fully disabled. But if that is the case, you can get a pretty big tax exemption there as far as what you're paying.
Well, you guys, I just want to kind of close this one out with a little call to action, and this is for myself actually to hopefully connect with you guys. I'm offering right now, I've got the kind of bandwidth to do a few more, so I'd love to offer, if any of you guys would like help with this, feel free to reach out. What I'm doing for some of my other friends and clients is doing this kind of the heavy lifting for them. So I'm putting together that CMA report, that comparative market analysis, where we're finding comparable properties to justify our appeal that it should be lowered. So if you guys want help putting any of that together, reach out. But again, you got to do it quickly. The deadline is June 8th. And I'm going to need at least a couple days before that, if not more. So just please reach out as soon as you can. Go to adamsillsdenver.com. You can message me there, or if you want to shoot me an email, adam@adamsillsdenver.com. All right, Ben.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Let me just go ahead and throw my contact information out there. You can find me at American Money 101. If you have any questions on the mortgage side, you're welcome to email me, benjamin.adams@northpoint.com. Shoot me a text.
All right, guys. Well, I know this one was a little bit more specific for an episode on the pursuit of progress, but hopefully you guys got a little bit of value from it. We want to definitely be giving you guys as many actionable things to do as possible to help you also get 1% better every single day. Ben?
Love you guys. See you next week on the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Have a great week.
Better, guys.